is an emotional first event for me. You planned it that way, I think. Let me just start by saying thank you, Sherry, and Alex, and Karen, to CJP and Women's Philanthropy, and all of the incredible staff who have made my transition so smooth and who make all of the events like this in the community building that we do possible. Thank you all. I want to give a shout out and a welcome to Marjorie Patkin, who is representing the North Shore crowd. I believe she is the first CJP campaign co-chair from the North Shore. So that's Marjorie. And I can't think of a better place to start. This is day 2 for me. And they said, like, do you want to do an event? You know, your second day in, and should it be Choose to Connect in the North Shore? And how could it not be? This is perfect, and it's perfect for really 3 reasons. First, what an extraordinary community you have here. Mazel tov to Ariella, who I think we all know really was the keynote tonight. It's incredibly powerful, and not only is her leadership inspiring, but what an articulation of what a community is all about, what is possible for this community, and how the North Shore really can be a beacon of light for what we're trying to do throughout Greater Boston. This is a powerful, powerful community that I think is building on a legacy, and in so many ways just getting started. There's over 70 active CJP volunteers and leaders from this community, and CJP, and in partnership with all of you and the powerful institutions up here, continues to invest in people and programs and institutions so we can make this as strong of a North Shore as we can be, and we can connect the North Shore community, as Ariella said so beautifully, to the broader Greater Boston Jewish community, so we can move forward with a vision of one united community that shares a vision for this future. It's also appropriate that I'm here tonight because as I make an enormous transition and new beginning in my life, this is coming home. And I'm driving here. By the way, thank you all for swimming here. And, as Robin said to me, I need to change my Dvar Torah tonight to be about Noah's Ark. I'm going to stick with my previous message, but thank you for coming out in this weather. But I'm driving down Revere Beach, where my parents met, past Kelly's roast beef. I didn't see the cyclone on my way there. That's, you have to have been around for a long time to know that one. Did not have time to stop at Kelly's for roast beef, but then I come in here and I'm like, I taught your student at GAN, I was your kids camper at Bowercrest, I was in JCC Plays with you when we were little. My 3rd grade teacher walked in the room. Thank you, Mrs. Shortman, for helping me get to this point. And when you think about the message of tonight, though, how appropriate, right? We go farther when we know where we've come from. And so what an appropriate way to begin this new journey for me, coming home to this community that's made me who I am. And the 3rd reason why this is the perfect event, in some ways, to launch my CJP journey, is because the name of this event, Choose to Connect, really captures everything that we are all about. And as I reflected on what I wanted to share tonight, and on this event in particular, and how appropriate the name Choose to Connect is, I wanted to share some thoughts about why Choose to Connect in some ways could be the mission statement of the Jewish people. It could be the title of the book of my personal and professional journey, and I think it captures where we are at this moment as CJP and as a Greater Boston Jewish community. Choose to Connect and the Jewish people. We're having this event on the week when we will read the Torah portion of Devarim, of Deuteronomy, this week, which means we're starting the 5th book of the Torah. This is a big week. We also have Tisha B'Av coming up this weekend, which is a big, sad, and intensely historic day. So this is a time period for the Jewish people where we're looking back at our story and thinking about our collective responsibility moving forward. But we're going to start the 5th book of the Torah this week. And Deuteronomy is different than the other 4 books because the journey is essentially over at this point. We've wandered through the wilderness. That's what the last book was about. And the Jewish people are on the banks of the Jordan River, ready to go into the land of Israel. And this book is essentially Moses' last words to these people as they get ready to begin the next stage of their journey, to cross over into the promised land for which they've been striving and hoping and dreaming, and to begin the process of building a nation based on the stories and the values and the journeys that they've already taken. And I always ask myself, what do you say at that moment if you're Moses? And what is your message? By the way, you got to be careful about giving a Devar Torah about Moses because you don't want to compare yourself. But the truth is, I'm not Moses in this case because I'm on the other side. I'm starting the journey, not ending. So this is not a story about endings, but it is a story about beginnings. What is the message to a people when they've come so far and yet are just beginning? And one of the words that appears something like 160 times in the Torah and that captures the essence of our people and that defines Moses' words in this book is Zahor. Remember. Over and over again. Remember. Don't forget. Remember. Don't forget. Remember the Sabbath. Remember where you've been. Remember Exodus. Remember God. Remember one another. Remember your community. Remember the land of Israel. Remember why we started this journey in the first place and the reason why we're crossing over. Why do you have to tell people to remember 160 times? You think that it's likely they're going to forget? Yeah. And they hear about education. I think it's because of the fragility of this moment as they begin this new stage of their journey is that no matter how powerful Sinai was, and the splitting of the sea was, and this journey through the desert were, and no matter how much the first generation and probably the second generation could never forget and could never disconnect, once you get a few generations away, connection doesn't just happen. You don't just remember. The Torah understands human nature. After time, you forget, and you disconnect, unless you choose to stay connected, unless you choose to remember. It has to be a mitzvah. What Moses is saying to them is, when you get over there into the promised land and things get good and you start to forget and you build families and you start to look toward the future, choose to connect to your past, to your story, to our values. Choose to remember why this is an extraordinary heritage and an extraordinary legacy, and choose to remember that if you live a life connected to our people and our story, it will add tremendous meaning and purpose to the lives and the nation that you will build when you look forward toward your future. That's the Jewish story. Choose to connect. And I was thinking about my own journey, which I wanted to share a little bit about tonight, especially because we're here, and I realized that it has been punctuated at almost every stage by my choice to connect, and in some cases by others' choices to connect with me. I grew up in a family where I didn't have to choose. We were connected. JCC, Temple Ner Tamid, Camp Simcha, Camp Bower Crest, there just wasn't a question. We were Jewish, we were connected. Honestly, we didn't think that much about it. And by the time I got into high school and then into college, I was searching everywhere but Judaism for meaning and purpose. Honestly, I think I studied every religion there was when I was in college. And at a certain point in time, I realized I have my own culture and heritage. I ought to explore that. I started taking Hebrew language instead of Mandarin Chinese. Took a few Jewish studies classes. And I realized that every question and answer I can find looking out there, I can find in here if I choose to connect to where I come from. That led me to Israel after college, and delving deeply into the power of Jewish learning and living in Jerusalem for the first time. And at a certain point on that journey, there was a moment where I could have chosen to connect so much to my Judaism that I disconnected actually from my family and the world I grew up in. And a moment I'll never forget was sitting in a hotel in Israel when my parents came to visit for the first time, which actually may have been on a Federation mission that year. And my father said to me, I don't know exactly what's happening to you. And we don't really know how far this is going to go. But your mother and I want you to know that we always want you to be able to be who you are in our house. I don't think my mother realized just how many details that would involve. But the message was, you don't have to decide between your Jewish journey and the family you grew up in. You can choose to stay connected to both. And it was a very powerful moment for me to realize that I could continue to develop and grow and evolve and change and pursue my passions and my Jewish journey, and that it wasn't in spite of the way I was brought up, but it was on the foundation of the values with which I was raised. And that was a powerful moment for me that I honestly think was critical for leading me right back here, right now. After that year in Israel, another big moment. What am I going to do with my life? I was only 23, but I thought maybe I should get a job. And I came back to Boston, and my first job was at the new Jewish high school of Greater Boston, now Gann Academy. And I realized, my gosh, this is the coming together of all of my worlds. My powerful high school experience, Camp Bowercrest, my time in Israel. This is a place where Jewish teenagers are choosing to connect with the best of American Jewish life and the depth and sophistication and joy of their Jewish journeys. They don't have to choose either or. They can choose to connect to both. And that set me on a path of dedicating my life to helping the next generation make the choice to connect to where they come from and to see the meaning and purpose that Judaism can bring into their lives. Now fast forward, almost 20 years later, and my work at Gann brought me out into this extraordinary Greater Boston Jewish community and beyond. And the kinds of opportunities we were pursuing at Gann and the tough questions we were wrestling with brought me into conversation with many of you and the extraordinary leaders and volunteers and philanthropists in Greater Boston who care so much about our future. And I realized that this was a moment and an opportunity for me to choose to broaden and deepen my connections even beyond Gann. And this moment for me of moving into this role in this extraordinary institution was my choice to connect even more with all of you and with the communities that make up the Greater Boston Jewish community. To connect with the leaders who are running the incredible institutions. A shout out, by the way, to Amy Gold, who's here, and obviously to Leah Lipsker, who's here, and the people who are helping to build this work. And the Shirat Hayam, by the way, thank you for hosting. But to connect with and to partner with passionate volunteers and leaders who love this community, who are eyes wide open about the challenges that lie ahead, and who want to go forward together with hope and possibility that we can make this community and our world a better place. And that brings me to why Choose to Connect in some ways captures this moment for CJP and our community. First, the challenge that the children of Israel were facing on the banks of the Jordan River is the same challenge that we are facing when we think about our next generation today, which is how are we going to make this meaningful and compelling for a next generation who we all know might not choose it. Connection isn't just going to happen. The forces are too great. We live in a global, interconnected, technologically powered world where our kids have unlimited choices. It is a spiritual marketplace. It is a marketplace of ideas. And our task is to help them, the next generation, see the beauty and the meaning of Jewish life. That means that together we need to build institutions that are vibrant and relevant and compelling to them. This is why we invest so much in day schools and in camps and in synagogues. We need to get our kids to Israel so that they can feel the power of the Jewish people and the power of the Jewish story and see the kind of meaning and purpose that a relationship with Israel can bring to your life. That's why we together, and this community in particular, send so many of our kids to Israel and continue to invest in sending college students and birthright, and then thinking about how to build on those experiences when they come back, because we need to create opportunities for them to find meaning and purpose. By the way, we need to innovate when our institutions aren't yet there. And we need to find compelling ways to bring people into Jewish life. Think about PJ Library. Think about family connectors who are out there, not waiting for people to come to us, but going to them to say, there are on-roads and on-ramps into Jewish life that will help you find meaning in a relationship with the Jewish community. The second reason why Choose to Connect speaks to this moment is that, as Ariella said so beautifully, no one community can go it alone. No matter how powerful the North Shore Jewish community is, no matter how much potential is in this room and beyond, this community needs to lean in to its relationship with the broader Jewish community, and we need to find ways to leverage and build and strengthen the networks that already exist throughout our Jewish community. We will only solve our biggest problems when we build collaborative relationships with one another, when we find ways to connect our institutions and our individuals, and we will have our most joyful, celebratory, inspired moments when we feel like we are parts of a greater whole. We will continue to invest in communities like the North Shore, in institutions, and we will also build a community where we feel like we are many that are part of one. And that's the way we're going to build a strong, vibrant future moving forward, when we choose to connect with one another and when we feel a sense that we're part of a greater whole. And lastly, I want to say a word about the Jewish community's choice to connect with the broader world. I think that the world has never needed the Jewish people more than it does right now. I hope that you're taking a little time off of the news feeds this summer, because I know I need to do that in order to restore. But look at our world. Look at our American society. We need repair. There's plenty of good out there that brings you hope and inspiration, but the truth is, this is a moment. And as a Jewish community, we have an opportunity to fulfill our mitzvah, litaken et ha'olam, to rebuild and repair this world, by not only living out our values of chesed, of caring for the vulnerable among us, but by pursuing justice and by creating a better world for the vulnerable beyond the Jewish community, and by engaging with the broader world in American society to live out our values and to contribute our voices to a conversation of humankind. That's why CJP invested in this most recent Faces initiative when we raised almost $200,000 to reunite families at the border. Not because of a political statement, because of the value of chesed, of compassion. That's why CJP raises money to make sure that we have transitions to work programs for people with disabilities. That's why we set out on a poverty initiative to make sure that we would actually eradicate Jewish poverty. We cannot go that alone. We have a unique opportunity to bring together partners, institutions, leaders, philanthropists, volunteers, passionate, caring individuals like everyone in this room. When we do that, we can tackle our biggest problems. We can contribute an incredibly strong, powerful voice of tzedek and mishpat, of justice and righteousness, not only for the Jewish future, but for the future of our country and the world. This is what lies ahead. This is why this is an incredible moment for me and for all of us. I am humbled and honored to be starting this journey really here tonight with all of you, and I have incredible hope in the potential of our community. All we need is in this room and in many other rooms like this. It's on all of us to choose to connect, to make the most of our opportunities, to step up and contribute our individual voices and our voices as a community. And when we do so, I think our future really is limitless. I'm excited to be on this journey with all of you, and thanks for having me tonight.